Hey everybody, Sean James here from My Self-Reliance. I'm up here looking at some land in north central Ontario where I had my property 25 years ago and where I built that cabin. So I'm hoping to find some land to buy, but in the meantime, a friend of mine that owns land very close to the property where I built that cabin said I can come out here and do whatever I want. So I'm cutting some cedar trees down today. I'm going to show you how I notch those. And I have chosen this location as my new log cabin location actually. And I'm going to go over all the things I was doing to live for a year in the woods, off-grid, no power, no running water, no money. So what I'm going to do is reproduce my cabin, my 8x12 cabin that I built, but I'm going to make it completely built out of natural materials and using a construction method that you can disassemble it. So rather than, there'll be no nails, I'll do some dowels, drill some holes and put dowels in on any joints that I need to secure, or I'll do shiplaps or some other kind of woodworking joint. I'm going to notch the logs, they're all going to be placed on top of one another. Complete a rectangular 8x12 rectangle, and that's going to be the structure. And then I'll split some cedar, like I said, I'm in a cedar grove. I'll split some cedar logs into planks, put a roof on using that, and then I'll actually split and make some cedar shakes that go on top of that. So the whole thing can be disassembled. It's not going to be easy, mind you, to disassemble, but I'll try to make it a smaller log so it's a little bit lighter than it would have been. That cabin I built 25 years ago, that was built mostly out of hardwood, mostly out of black ash, very heavy wood, maple, and then a little bit of basswood, which is light, but construction would have been very heavy and difficult to disassemble. So I'm going to try to redo that right here. I'm going to do a little bit different notching pattern. I'll show you how I notched it back then and how I'll notch those logs on the corners now. Alright, so when I'm selecting my logs for a log cabin, or selecting my trees to cut down for a log cabin, I try to get 2 sections out of each tree. So if I build this cabin 8x12, I need about 3 feet longer than each side, so I've got enough overhang for notching it together. So 8-foot wall, I need 11-foot logs, and for the 12-foot wall, I need 15-foot logs. So it's hard to judge that length from the ground. But what's even harder is finding a log that's straight enough to get, say, 11 plus 15 to get 26 feet of straight logs. Yeah, straight logs out of it. So that cedar right there, when I came at it from one angle, it looked perfectly straight, which it was from that angle. From this angle, I couldn't even get one straight log out of that, unfortunately. So it's a beautiful cedar at the right thickness for my cabin. That one's slightly too thick. I could get a section out of the middle, but I'd feel bad about taking that cedar down just for the center section of that log. So here's one here where the top is already damaged and broken off. I can get one length out of that, one good, probably the 15-foot log, so I think I'll probably take that one. Got a nice spruce here too, but I'm going to try to make most of the cabin out of cedar if I can, but I'm not against taking that spruce as well. Okay guys, I'm just going to notch these logs right here. It's a spruce tree that I just cut down. It's about a 6, maybe 8-inch log at the other end, 9-inch log. Not too bad of a taper, so I can get 2 sections out of it. Cut an 11-foot log here, so that's going to be good for the 8-foot side, closer to the bottom. I don't want to put the spruce right close to the ground. I want cedar down there, more rot proof. And even those are going to sit on rocks this time. When I built the cabin, I put the bottom logs right on the ground. I didn't have anything to elevate them. I figured they were sacrificial logs anyway, and they did last 25 years and the cabin's still standing. So these spruce though, I'm going to elevate them a little bit. That's going to be, like I said, the log maybe 2nd or 3rd up from the bottom. This log, because the spruce tree got hung up and the top section wasn't any good, this piece here will be probably just enough on the 8-foot wall to go from the corner to the door. So it's not a waste of a log. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I notched these last time when I built the cabin, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do differently when I build this cabin. So the first thing I did, I'd get that first row of logs down, I'd notch them so that the 2 runner logs lengthways were down lowest, and then I notched those and dropped in the 2 shorter ends into those notches. Now this is going to be sitting slightly higher than that, right? So it's going to sit almost flush. So every time you come up with the course, you do this, put both of those logs on, then both of these logs, and so on all the way up. So what I did when I built the last cabin is all I had was Sometimes I had a chainsaw when my dad would come up on a weekend or something with a chainsaw from work. I didn't own one, so typically it was done with a hatchet. I would score that, mark the width, and I would, depending whether the log was upside down or not, I would score that, the width of that log as well. The way I'm going to do it this year gives you a little bit tighter fit. This fits pretty well, but you end up with, because the logs are round and I'm doing a square notch, the two squares sit tight in the middle, but then around the outside of each round part you're going to see a gap, so I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so now I have this piece that's the width of the log, but now I have to get that out of there. So what I do is score that again, same depth. I'd like a little bit bigger hatchet than this actually, but I'll make this work. Okay. Scored that at the depth that I brought those saw cuts down. That's what I mean about this short axe. See how it, if it glances, it tends to go for your leg because it's so short a handle. I don't like it at all. Of course I did that right on a knot. So basically these are stop cuts, so when you come across with the hatchet or axe, try not to carry it through. Gives a nice straight stop cut right there. Get that a little bit more flush. See, that log fits in there pretty tight right there. Show you what happens when I bring this halfway down. It's the two stop cuts. I'm going to do 2 notches in this one just to get it out a little bit quicker. I'm going to get a proper crosscut saw too. These are okay. They're portable, so obviously good for my trips, but for high volume work like this, you really want a proper crosscut saw. But you really need something like that and a really good axe. Really good carbon that you can sharpen and keep razor sharp. This actually is good steel. It's a good company, Halterfors. It's just I don't like this particular saw. So that's the depth that I brought that down. The back of this classic axe is not hardened, so it's not meant for pounding. But typically what I would do, get that on there and use a mallet, wooden mallet, pound that down. That'll keep a nice clean cut on there, so it's equal depth all the way. Again, I've got those stop cuts so I can cut across. And even better for doing these is a chisel instead of a hatchet, a little bit more precise. So and you would just pound that, notch that right out. That's way easier actually, and nicer. And when you see what I'm going to do on the next cabin, you'll understand why. Okay, so that's a tight fit. So you can see how the next log, I leave them sitting proud like that, so the next log, it's going to be notched here of course, and then the piece that the long wall there, that log gets notched. So what ends up happening is that notch, those 2 notches bring this log next course down on top of that one. And if you choose nice straight logs and you orient them on the wall, you don't mind a bow actually, or bow coming in or out, but you don't want it up and down because then you have to try to trim that all the way off full length. So this one isn't bad, but the knots and stuff, if they're lined up and they're hitting, you can put that log, set it in there, do your notches, set it right down, and then kind of run a hatchet or a saw down it and take off all the high points until it's sitting nice and tight. And also nicer if you can get a flat surface there anyway. Otherwise all you get is round against round, so you get just that tip or the outside radius of the 2 logs touching. So you end up with hardly any R value, so because it's just in fact there'll be holes right through it, air spaces right through. But even if it was tight, it's only touching right there at a very fine narrow point, and then it gets wider and wider, that gap, as the logs start falling off with the roundness. So you really would be, that's why square log homes are nice, because they all sit nice and flat, and you can put a foam gasket inside there. But since we're doing this completely traditional, and what I did in the past was traditional, I sheared it off a little bit or flattened it out where I could, got them fitting as tightly as I could. I took moss. This whole ground here, Canadian Shield, is covered in moss, and boreal forest even more so as you go further north. And I just shoved that in the gaps from both sides. Stayed like that for years, and then when I got married, I actually convinced my wife, I don't think we were married yet, we were engaged I guess, and she came up to the cabin, and the field, the half-acre or 1 acre field where I pulled in and parked was stripped of topsoil I guess years ago, and it's clay. So I was able to get clay out of the field, really hard, good, beautiful, clean clay. Took it out, and we not only filled in the gaps with clay, but the whole logs too. We like waterproofed it, and you'll see that in the pictures. But it was, you know, it's still there 25 years later. I guess 20 years later after we did that clay. And as long as you have an overhang keeping the rain from hitting it, it'll stay there an awful long time. So that's what I did last time. Quickly, I'm going to pack up because I'm actually excited about getting home and working on the video series for living off grid. I you know, it's something I let go for a long time, but I'm really excited about doing that series, and I'm going to make an ebook out of it as well. My dream when I was younger was to live in the cabin. I want to show you the economics of how I did that back then. I'm actually surprised when I look back that I had the wherewithal to do the calculations. So I designed my cabin to be as efficient as possible, use the fewest logs as possible, so low doorway, facing southeast with the sun, winter sun, and away from the prevailing winds off the lake. So everything has to be 100% or as close to efficient as you can make it in order to be able to survive and cut your living expenses down to next to nothing so you can live off grid like that. But what I want to show you is the economics of all of that as well. So I stockpiled enough food for a year, and then planned on getting my protein from the wild, which I did as well, and I'll show you how I did that. So stay tuned. I hope you like what I'm doing here, and hopefully I'll get a cabin built this year, and you can see how I scribe these logs, do a little bit differently. So just quickly, what I meant by that is, instead of doing a flat notch like this, I'm going to take a scribe. So it's like a compass, and you just do this, you follow the contour like that, and then you only notch this log out, and you do it in the shape of the round log beneath it. So be halfway through, and it'll be perfectly round, and when that sits down flush on there, it's going to hug that log perfectly. It's going to be a really tight seal. If you do that, you don't need any fasteners, you don't need any plugs or dowels, so you can literally build this cabin like that. Those logs are going to fit together. You can number them. You can take that cabin apart. I'm looking forward to doing that. Anybody wants to help me, I'm going to be doing some workshops on it as well. So if you want to join me as part of the educational series that Joe and I are putting on, then just reach out to me and I'll get you the information for that. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you are inspired by the story of my log cabin, and it's inspired me to go back and revisit that and revisit what I was planning to do with my life, and you know, I hope it does the same for you. So thanks again for watching. Please subscribe. You'll get notified when the next videos are coming out, and feel free as always to ask me whatever questions you have, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, guys.